Growing up, I always thought I was the problem. Too sensitive, too anxious, too quiet. That's what my mom always told me. The world is too loud for you, baby. You wouldn't last a day out there without me. She said it with love, with soft hands and worried eyes, and I believed her like a good daughter should. She never let me sleep over at friends' houses, never let me go on school trips. She even picked out my clothes well into high school, said I'd get overwhelmed choosing on my own. I wasn't abused. Not the way people imagine. There were no bruises, no screaming, just control, wrapped in softness, disguised as protection. And it worked. By the time I turned 20, I was terrified of everything. Terrified of making mistakes, of disappointing her, of living. So when Daniel came into my life, it felt like freedom. He was confident, decisive. He made choices fast and expected me to follow. And for a while, I liked that. It felt safe, familiar, like my mother, but younger, romantic. He said things like, "Don't overthink it. I know what's best. Just trust me. I can handle it for both of us." And I did, until I didn't. The first red flag should have been how quickly he and my mom got along. Too quickly. They'd text without telling me. He'd mention things I hadn't said yet, like how I was struggling with work, or that I cried in the shower last week. When I asked how he knew, he'd smile and say, "You're easy to read." I didn't think much of it, until the walls started closing in. He began saying things like, "You're lucky I put up with this. No one else would have this much patience, honestly. Sometimes I feel like I'm dating a child." And my mom? She never defended me. She said things like, "Well, he's right sometimes. Maybe he just wants to help you grow." When I told her I felt like I was shrinking instead of growing, she changed the subject. Every time. So I stayed. Not because I loved him, but because I couldn't imagine surviving without someone guiding me. And that's exactly how they wanted it. I didn't know it yet, but the two people I trusted the most had been working together to keep me small. It started small. A comment here, a look there, moments that didn't add up, but weren't big enough to prove anything. One day, I told my mom that Daniel forgot our anniversary. The next day, he surprised me with flowers and said, "You really thought I'd forget? Come on." I smiled, relieved, but something felt off. He'd forgotten. I was sure of it. So how did he suddenly remember with details I never told him? Another time, I mentioned in passing that I felt too anxious to go to a job interview. The next morning, my mom texted me, "It's okay, baby. Not everyone is made for high-pressure environments." And later that day, Daniel said, "You're not like other girls. And that's okay, you're better in smaller spaces." To different voices, same message. Stay small, stay still, stay grateful. I brushed it off. Maybe I was overthinking. That's what they always said when I brought things up. "You're imagining things. You're always so dramatic. You're lucky we love you the way you are." But the truth is, love shouldn't feel like suffocation wrapped in silk. And then came the day that broke it open. My mom had asked me to fix her printer. She said it kept disconnecting from her Wi-Fi. She left me in her office while she cooked. I clicked around aimlessly, trying to reinstall the software when her email popped open automatically. No password, just wide open. At first, I looked away. I had no intention of snooping, until I saw the subject line. "Ray, she's starting to pull away again." My heart stopped. I clicked it. It was an email thread between her and a contact saved as Dryer's Daniel Ross, my boyfriend. They'd been emailing back and forth for months, coordinating, planning. At first, the language was vague, but the tone was unmistakable. "Just remind her that she gets overwhelmed easily. If she starts questioning again, steer her toward a quiet night and don't push too hard or she'll spiral. We can't let that happen again." They weren't just talking about me. They were managing me, the kind of management you use for something unstable, a liability. I kept scrolling, hands shaking, breath shallow. And then I saw one line that made me put the laptop down and run to the bathroom before I threw up. "You know she won't leave. Not after everything we've convinced her she can do alone." I stared at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see someone broken. I saw someone who had been broken on purpose. I didn't say anything that night. Not to Daniel. Not to my mother. I ate dinner with both of them like nothing had happened. Pretended to laugh at their stories. Washed the dishes. Said goodnight. Then I locked myself in my room and cried into a towel so no one would hear. But even through the tears, one thing was clear. I wasn't crazy. I was being controlled. And now that I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The next morning, I started a new routine. I made myself smaller on purpose. I let Daniel think I was slipping back into the same old rhythm. I let my mom believe I was still scared of the world. I said things like, "You're right. I don't know how I'd manage alone. Thanks for always guiding me." And they smiled. Because manipulators don't get suspicious when you seem weaker. They get confident. And that's when they make mistakes. So I started collecting things. Evidence. Prints of the emails. Screenshots from Daniel's messages that lined up perfectly with my mom's advice. I bought a flash drive, kept it in the pocket of an old coat no one touched. I opened a secret bank account, started transferring small amounts from the joint one I shared with Daniel. I reconnected with an old friend I'd cut off not because I wanted to, but because Daniel said she was a bad influence and my mom said she made me doubt too much. Her name was Clara. She was the first person who didn't tell me I was imagining it. When I showed her the emails, she covered her mouth and said, This isn't protection. This is possession. I hadn't heard anyone say it out loud yet, but she was right. They didn't love me. They needed me to need them, because once I stopped, they'd have no power. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and asked myself something I'd never dared ask before. What would my life look like if they didn't have access to it? And just thinking about it, I felt air in my lungs for the first time in years. I wasn't ready yet, but I was becoming, and they had no idea. The first thing I cut was my location sharing. Daniel used to say it was for safety. My mom said it gave her peace of mind, but I knew what it really was. Surveillance. So I turned it off, quietly. Within an hour, I got 2 messages. Daniel, hey, your location's not working. Everything okay? Mom, your dot disappeared. Did your phone die? I waited 5 hours. Then I replied, just a glitch. All good. Let them wonder. Let them feel the same unease they fed me for years. Next, I stopped oversharing. I used to tell my mom everything, my worries, my routine, my doubts, because she trained me to. So I started shrinking the updates. Nothing new. Busy. Fine. She didn't like it. I could feel the tension in her short replies. 1 word, 2 words, passive-aggressive emojis. And Daniel, he started probing. You've been distant lately. Don't shut me out like this. You're slipping again, don't make me the bad guy. I didn't respond right away. Sometimes not at all. Because now, I wasn't afraid of disappointing them. I was afraid of losing myself again. I kept planning. Clara helped me find a room to rent temporarily. Nothing fancy, just a place where no one had the keys but me. I bought a second phone, started moving my contacts, my passwords, my identity, and I booked a one-way bus ticket. Not far, but far enough. On the night before I left, I sat in my old room and wrote 2 letters. 1 to Daniel, 1 to my mother, both short, both final. To him, I said, you said I'd never find someone who'd put up como mujito. You were right, because I don't need to be put up with, I need to be respected, and that was never part of your plan. To her, you called it love, but love doesn't isolate, doesn't steal confidence, doesn't hand me over to someone who treated me like a burden you didn't want to carry alone. I left both envelopes on the kitchen counter, and before sunrise, I walked away. No goodbyes, no explanations, no begging. Just freedom, the kind that doesn't look loud or dramatic, the kind that comes in quiet steps and a door that only you can open from the other side. The first night alone, I slept on a mattress on the floor. No curtains, no internet, just silence. And I cried, not because I regretted leaving, but because I realized how long I'd been gone from myself. The stillness wasn't scary, it was honest. No one watching, no one correcting, no one waiting for me to break so they could rescue me. Just breath. Mine. Finally mine. Daniel messaged 3 times, then called 6. I blocked him. He sent a long email 2 days later. You're being dramatic. You'll regret this. No one else will handle you like I did. He was right about that, because now, I'd never again confuse control with care. My mother tried calling from different numbers, asking Clara where I was. Clara told her, she's not lost. She just stopped reporting to her warden. After that, the silence came, and it was glorious. I started small, making breakfast without anxiety, choosing what to wear without hearing someone else's voice in my head, learning to sit in a room alone and not ask permission to exist. Some days, I still felt the ache, like a ghost tapping on my shoulder, whispering, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe you were too sensitive. But I learned to answer back. That voice was never mine, and I don't know its face anymore. I started therapy, told the full story for the first time, not edited, not softened. And I didn't cry through all of it, because I wasn't telling it as a victim. I was telling it as someone who finally left the cage without slamming the door. They may never admit what they did, but they don't have to. They live in their control. I live in my choice, and every time I make one that's mine, I win a little piece of myself back.